And hey there, it's me Mudlink, and welcome back to some more The Greatest Attorney Adventure. So last time we continued with this trial, we got to see how fucking weird the entire circumstances are, and now we're actually connected the Gyarados to this crime. And it's fucking weird, this case. It's fucking weird. But we're gonna get to see the conclusion of it this time. See how it all ties together. So we got this testimony. We have to pretty much press everything anyway. So yeah. Let's do this. How can you say that for certain? Very good question, sir. The answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all of us policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? Can't say I remember. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. That's what this job's all about. Checking my fucking email for something. Yeah. There you go. And that's why that is why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you Bobby's good first word, while rubbing my tired eyes admittedly, sir. Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Gyarados? Oh, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well, so could you answer the question? It was a waste of time then. Absolutely, sir. I'll answer it to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Gyarados' domestic dispute can't be related to this case. Before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yes? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So with that, and sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Thank you, I'll try. See it. Press here. So we got some of this stuff here, and just. So here's the principles of policing. Number 1, a policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. Patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Any crimes falling under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered in... When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Wait, what you mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see. So they're restricted as to how much they open. Oh. And therefore, anything thrown out of the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location of where objects would have fallen. Yes, direct opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road. Would have been so hard for somebody to mention this top hinge casement thing before. Well, I have another question for you, Constable. What would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why would you have an idea of what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Gyarados' house is furnished with? Oh, well, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday. And we don't care to look at the rest. If there's a pursuit, I'm just gonna go for it. You have something to add, Mrs. Beat? Sorry. You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that? Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were. So lucky. Lucky? What do you mean? Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. We were just so lucky that it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see. Oh, I hadn't realized. Oh yes, that street, the Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love? Constable Beat. Huh? Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of the Gyarados household yesterday. Their house is on my beat, you see, sir. I really was cutting it close then. Constable, I wonder if you can clarify something. If the Gyarados household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well? Outside Mr. Gyarados' house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on the side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby, after all. Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners. Londoners. Whatever. I hate the fucking stupid British voices. You know what I think? I think it was a good lord's way of rewarding my parolee for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling? That's a fucked up way of thinking it. That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record. If it's me, Mr. Naruto, I'll take care of it immediately. Let's add it to the case file now. And now it's my turn, I think. And now you gotta press this statement, yeah. But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and was dark. Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star. Sorry? The star that will guide us to eternal happiness. Can't it guide you to answer the question? If a flaming book cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said, 3 times at least. Of course, what with the smog and everything, couldn't actually see any stars. In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you? Yes, sir. That is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir. Certainly seems like they're telling the truth. And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her. Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer, is that right? That's right, yes. If I had been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat. She really told me the way. Only, I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, please. So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes? But like I said, my Rolly was at the scene of the crime the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. Nothing to report. Greetings, Professor. Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir. Sir? Really, that seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir? Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of the line sprite was originally in the Gyarados household, so the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? One that just happened to be burnt as well? Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? So as we can see from the photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, the book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene. Is that so? something about the statement that's not sitting right with me. It's too mysterious of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell. What? I mean, what's she doing? Please, just because I'm a woman doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am. I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you. No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you? Yes, Mrs. Beat, I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. That was a very loud mutter. I heard that. The Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Oh, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't. Duly noted, Mrs. Beat, but please humbly ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? Mrs. Beat, nobody's questioning what you've told us. I swear I saw it, I did. That evening I saw clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back slinking away from the scene. I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky. All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction. Oh yes, well, that's a little embarrassing really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rolly. He gets ever so cross. Constable Beat, is there a problem? No sir, no problem sir. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind perhaps? Oh, well, in a way sir, yes sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening is all. You mean Mrs. Beat losing her way on the night of the incident? Well, you see, I sent her off to a fine police box and the next beat over for mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. Thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone a good 15. Oh, Rolly, you're such a tease. But the reason I was so long was because of the bouquet, silly. A bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about? Oh, it's a present from our wedding anniversary. Rolly's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds. Yes, how romantic. Forgotten all about it until just now. How'd you, my darling? Oh yes, but that was just between us. We're talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise. Really? Oh. What was that all about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. You have to ask Miss Beat about the bouquet. Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please. Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it it was a woman with a knife in her back. I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the street lights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice at first. And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on. Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. The funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. In case you need reminding, Mrs. Beat, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably. That's right. Silly me, I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although, I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think of how it got there, I really can't. So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite. Curious indeed. Isn't it? But the worst of it is, I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose really bought me. With that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose? Oh, yes, that's it. That's a bouquet Rolly bought me from our anniversary with old bits of change he found in the gutter. Maybe just call it a rose. Tell us, Lord Van Zieks, where did you come by the flower? According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Gyarados household. In front of the Gyarados house? Although it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. Could I have it back now, please? No, I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence. Oh. But this is a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial, do you hear me? I want it back. Good grief, rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget, Mrs. Beat. So, press this last statement. Alright, pretty much, yeah, nothing to report. That's correct, sir. And my eyes were wide open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on Yard's honor, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. Seems altogether regular to me. Wait. Oh wait, this is just a repeat of the state. Man, it's just a repeat of what happened last time. Oops, I didn't realize. Well, Mr. Naruto, what do you make of all this? Yes, the whole idea of an invisible attacker has been troubling me all along, but I believe I'm starting to get a picture of what really happened here now. The fourth book that had no business being at the scene of the crime made me sure that Mrs. Gyarados was hiding something from us, but it's becoming increasingly clear that someone else has been hiding something from us as well. I think I may already be armed with everything I need to strike a decisive blow here. This time, it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. So now you go to the last statement here, and... You claim, Constable Beat, there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. That cannot be. What do you mean to say? What do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby. Hang on. Yes, on the opposite of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of the meager bouquet, if a single starry bloom can be so described. No doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs. Meager? But if that were the case, why did the Constable Beat not testify to the fact? No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor. The bouquet belonged to me. There's nothing to do with the case. That's why I really didn't mention it, I'm sure. No, because sadly, it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. One more thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Gyarados' book. Mr. Gyarados' copy of The Lion's Pride, which is thrown out of the window by his wife, would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here on the west side of the street, and yet it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony you've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime on the east side of the street. But in fact, it It was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in front of Mr. and Mrs. Gyarados' house. There is no logical explanation for these things. Unless somebody deliberately moved them. What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Riley's done something wrong. True, listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says. Withering on about books and bouquets. Why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is. Oh good, Mrs. Gyarados come around. You might call it nitpickings. No. Sorry about that. But deliberately meddling with the scene of the crime is a criminal offense. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason. Tampering? You barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend. Who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person. Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime? It's obvious. It's Sherlock Holmes! No. Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Royally Beat. It was you. What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard? What nonsense, why would my Rolly do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband. Nobody works more tirelessly for the people of London. Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it. You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about that Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it. If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it. Oh. Forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Ah, well. First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing. Shit, whoopsie. You claim the crime scene was tampered with, but there's only one reason why anyone would commit such a reckless crime: to hide something. That's right, he's right. My husband and I just happened to be there. That's all. So why would he have anything to hide? Doesn't make sense. You've offered no motive for this alleged tampering. Until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair. Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery? Counsel, you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. You're mistaken. I'm sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering. Yes, my lord. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide. Where the victim fell to the ground. That's what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs. What? Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road. We saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know. That's certainly what everyone has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all. What? What? Ivan Six is still in shock. He's like, what the fuck did he just say? I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, counsel. That's your assertion, and the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening? But that's on the opposite side of the road. I don't understand. On the evening in question, Mr. Gedev's book fell directly down from the open window above. Your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself. Good gracious! Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses have both saw the moment the attack took place. That's right, I saw it with my own eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was a typical London fog on the ground. When he saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid. That was actually on the west side of Briar Road. No, that's not true. It can't have been. Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print, the victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing. What? What did he overlook? The bouquet, I presume. Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zeek said it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously. Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Royal Beat. Did I say Royal or Roll? Whatever. Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important? Oh, Rolly. It isn't true, is it? What that lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know. I had a dream. A terrible dream. All the things I did that night. Everything come out. Everything exposed. Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all. Good golly! Order! 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 What on earth is the meaning of all this? Oh, Rolly, why? Why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it? Wishing the victim dead should be one, too. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London town. I can't say, sir. What? I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation. For everything. I have a possible explanation for why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman. And yet, Lord Van Zeek, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please. Yes, my lord. Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence. At once, my lord. England, Japan, it makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions. What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions? I realize that I'm a foreigner in this land, and I have only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that, though honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example. Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat in all kinds of ways. There is no doubt that the young bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly. But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special. Special? How? On account of this bouquet, my lord. Oh yes, it was our very first wedding anniversary. Constable Beta worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal. When he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapsed on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through the man's mind? But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. B puts up with a lot being married to a Bobby like me. I want to show my dear wife how much I care. This is the warrant card the Constable Beat offered to lend to me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Aha! Constable Beat. Is that or is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that way? Yes. Everything you said, it's all right. So that's it. This is all to do. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat. Oh. Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat. Good gracious, Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you have done? It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene of the crime, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. I got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? Why tonight, of all nights? Why? It's a copper's job to guard the scene of the crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak. It just came out. Couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Meerschaum Street and then... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, Constable. I just wanted... Just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, Rolly. Just that one night. You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction. Just across the street to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care. You see, I thought... Well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see. I beg your pardon? Oh, of course he did. Otherwise, my Rolly would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement. Oh, I see your meaning now. But God got me back from my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat. Oh no, Rolly, that was all my fault. You should never have dropped in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rolly. And can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from one side of the road to the other in total? Oh, 4 it was, yes, 4, definitely 4. 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th Being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Gyarados household, of course. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean. Oh well, sir. That's how I found it. How you found it? What do you mean? When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding? Oh yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir. Interesting. I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only the two people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who done it, I thought. Couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make it a jot of difference. Would make a jot of a difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it. My lord? Yes, Lord Van Zieks? I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw. Yes, sir. Mr. Prosecutor, sir. What will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him? For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course. Please, don't punish my husband. This is all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. Alright then, my love. One last thing, Constable. Sir? Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make this mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime. Huh? Never again, sir? You mean to say... Leave, now. This trial is not yet over. Sir! Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought of a third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that? Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here, principally that the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume, is the only person who could possibly have committed this crime. No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already. Lord Van Zieks, is this true? Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. We will name this other person who could have perpetrated this crime. The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again, my assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, it is imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Gyarados. Me? Oh dearie me! That request has already been denied. But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Gyarados, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. Joan Gyarados. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited. To clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the wall. Against the window, sorry. Upon striking the pane of the open top hinge casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, and as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Gyarados. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before? I don't recall it. Seriously? Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? Anyway, the man over there and all on that regalia said members of the jury didn't need to testify, didn't he? Conveniently, yes. No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Juror number 4. Oh! Make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. But that's just a common garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, what would you expect me to know? What's that? Are you joking? What are you saying, please, Mrs. Gyarados? Now you listen to me. No, sorry, that was. No, never mind. I refuse to listen to. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, the poor woman. So, yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now, chop chop. Do your worst. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, if I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror. Oh? The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm going to have to testify. Juror number 4, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, having observed it with your own eyes today. Witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed, truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware. Oh, dearie me. So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Gyarados. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Witness, state your name and occupation. Oh, yes, my name is Joan Gyarados. I'm a juror and such like. It sounds like she doesn't even know if she's a housewife or a maid or what anymore. The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam? Yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth. Oh, dear me. Chin up, Joni. Nothing to worry about now. Oh, I didn't know you were here, John. Oh no, you snuck in. It wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? But I think I ought to testify as well, don't you? But what about your knee, dear? Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone. Oh, John. I presume you are Mr. John Gyarados? Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action and now living the quiet life, as it were. The quiet life? Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question? Ah, well, yes. Quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once. Sir, at once. The Battle of Gyarados. Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out, though, and got the window open. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd noticed if one or two went missing, I'm afraid. That bothered thing in the victim's back really was one of ours. You'll have a job of proving it, I think. Sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening. Although, an entirely one-sided assault, it seems. The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, veterans such as myself, it's only too aware that on every battlefield, you're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment. Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here? Well, I must say, I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife. In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end. Fanatics may well be right. But whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, I'm afraid so. Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination. Yeah, it is indeed the final cross-examination. I'm gonna press every statement except for statement 3, because I gotta wait for that. The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Gyarados. Or the passionate note, in fact. Mrs. Gyarados found the note, discovering her husband's little secret. She gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too. What a sordid state of affairs. Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to track it all up. And besides, half of it was wide of the mark anyway. A likely story. These waters run very deep. But what transpired next after these multiple blows to the face? And the fire also spread to some items of furniture, didn't it? The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine, really. Just so happens there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out. Most precarious situation you put yourself in. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street where the water main isn't connected yet. Have to draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see. Lodgers are always mourning like they can't get any water at night. Although, the little mustache Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe. Defendant Mr. Natsumi, you mean? Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off. Have you actually seen the state of the man? I believe he uses all of his income to buy books. Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough. Sorry, would you care to elaborate? Nothing to say, really. Remember, rather partial to the spot of carving, you see, pipes and whatnot. Fishing tackle, you know the sort of thing. It's a passion we both share. I like to carve little wooden trinkets too, and then there's my leather work. Sorry to say, we're always losing knives about the place. We have dozens of the things. We sell them at the market sometimes, 20 for the price of 19. Needless to say, I snap them up. John prefers to use 2 knives at meal times 2 instead of a knife and fork. Now, John, we don't want people thinking I'm some kind of savage. Ah! Here we go again with the scaldings. Why are they being so evasive? I imagine it's because they don't want to believe it. They can't bear the thought that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim. Which is entirely understandable, of course, but still. Go on with your testimony, witnesses. Sir. So you have no intention of admitting it was your knife unless we can produce proof? Even though there is no other credible possibility if Mr. Natsume is innocent. You forget, my Nipponese friend. It has yet to be established that the accused is not responsible for the attack. As if I could forget. If only there was some way to know who had handled the knife. I suppose wizardry like that is just a dream. Perhaps you're thinking of fingerprinting, Mr. Naruto. What? You mean it's not a dream? That sort of wizardry really exists? Whenever people touch anything, they leave behind a unique pattern from their skin, or so they say. But I can't see anything. There are already countries in the world where these so-called fingerprints can be used as evidence. Lord Strongheart is currently discussing the matter at the Ministry of Justice. So yeah, now it's telling you, oh yeah, fingerprint stuff. You can't fingerprint stuff anymore. You can't fingerprint. Yeah, you can't do fingerprint evidence here. Yes, I believe we are rapidly approaching an era of scientific methods of investigation. But for now, we shall have to find an alternative method of proving our assertion. That this knife found in the victim's back was originally in Mr. and Mrs. Gyarados' house. Ugh, only I could transplant this whole incident to several years in the future. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? What do you think, Mr. Naruto? Well, I think we've heard all this before, to be honest. I can't say I'm particularly confident that we'll be able to prove anything new from this testimony. But in this cross-examination, it's absolutely essential that we establish how this knife came to be at the scene of the incident. Yes, I know. I'm sure both of them must be feeling very worried. Worried that it was in fact a knife belonging to one of them that caused the victim's injury. If we can find even a tiny shred of evidence to support that theory, it would clinch this trial for us. It would explain everything. Yes, it would. So for Saseki-san's sake, we must find that last crucial piece of evidence. Even though the room was on fire? As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. That's most certainly not true of a Susato takedown, Mr. Naruto. How'd she know I was thinking that? So please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day? Full honesty, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge. A napkin. There's something to add, sir? Mr. Gyarados. Oh, don't shoot. Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. But your wife's remark just now brings something to mind. Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire pokers I seem to recall. Ouch! The woman's aim is uncanny. She landed a direct hit with every body. Ah! Good grief, woman, we're not at home now. This is a court of law. Oh, dearie me. Ever so sorry, dear. What's she even doing with a teapot in here? Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you. Obviously. Oh, take a look at this then. How do you suppose that happened, Your pipe, sir? Has a thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did, yes. When I went to pick up the thing, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage. I see, your pipe was broken. I've never been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I've managed to bandage the thing up for now. Ah, you are one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? I wonder what we should make of this account. The defense believes Mr. Gyarados' remarks just now to be of great significance. This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray fiery wife, and pipes as well as hearts may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worth of adding to the formal testimony. Indeed, common sense, one might say. Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir? Hmm? Well, I don't see why not. Oh, dearie me. There you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady. Very well, the court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence. I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request is turned down. Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Susato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully. Well, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Gyarados. But now, if we could return to the crux of the matter. We're going to tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim. So we got a last statement here. Before we do anything, examine the pipe. How we didn't notice this, I have no idea. Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. Something stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Surely couldn't be. And now you can also examine the jackknife. Could have done it earlier, but I mean, I felt like doing it now just to show, just to have it connect the two. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. Wait, part of it's missing? Could be wrong, but I've got a feeling. You remember this? Oh, that's a tiny fragment of metal that we found inside Mr. Gyarados' pipe. Yes, and just maybe. Oh my, it's a perfect fit. Somehow, I just knew it. Mr. Gyarados, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? You used to call me Dead-Eyed Deb back in the regiment, of course, but that was some time ago. Even when I'm trying to draw a large print book with a fire these days. I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest. Oh, he does, dear me. It's rather wearing being asked about every other letter and every other word. He must be very does he. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal. Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Gyarados' pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got in there. What precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road? I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. You see he's even burnt in the back. He sees the fucking hole in his robe. You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well then. Present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case? This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece at the tip of the blade that is missing. A common issue with the inferior blade sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones. What of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim. No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Gyarados' pipe. Oh. Ah. Good grief, Lord Van Zieks. I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match. Good golly gosh. Order! Is this Some sort of Eastern sorcery? This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle. A miracle? So Van Zieks has figured it out, has he? Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord. Crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside of Mr. Gyarados' pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony. With this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught, knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did, yes. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Oh dearie me. Oh dearie me. Oh no, it's usually it's Gyarados for John there. During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Gyarados flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Gyarados, instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip to break off. Of course. Good lord. Yes, and that's when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Gyarados' pipe. The chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1. And yet there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window. In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Gyarados' house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh, oh dear. No! So I love how she has a box. That's how short she is. Hey, everybody! A full-bodied theory, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it is just a theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see... Oh yeah. It's spoiled by an insurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable... What? What, Van Zieks, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you have claimed to have identified? An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, and her... Huh. That's right, you silly little man. Now, Joan, old thing, what are you getting so excited about? What are you getting so excited about? Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife that struck her had fallen from above, there's no possible way it could have planted itself into the victim's back. Gah! Order. Quite right, you see? That's exactly right. If the knife had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on top of her head. Well, he's lost for words, look. I knew it. I never liked this theory in the first place. I don't know, though. What really did happen? It would appear the defense has made a rather spectacular blunder. The theory has even one inconsistency it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. We were so close I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency and the theory will stand. Miss Susato? Miss Susato, you mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. If you were just caught off guard, that's all, and your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is there. Seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed. This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying? Counsel? There's a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer. Goodness! Utter madness. Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is... this, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. The burnt book? Is that not Mr. Gyarados' book? Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. As we all now know, it was a police constable that put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so, as part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road. That's true, however, as part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. In other words, the victim had already picked the book up of her own volition. And clearly that must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. But after being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything. So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand? By Jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now. Oh dearie me. We know that the victim fell from the top floor of the Gyarados household onto the pavement below, precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, at exactly that moment, the young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her. The book I threw. Yes, Mrs. Gyarados. And what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement? Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked the book up. Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book. Oh heavens! And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Ms. Green, was the defendant, Mr. Saseki Natsume. Well, I never! It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker. So there was never a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Gyarados, the very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wonder if perhaps it might have been something like that. There, old bean. Poor Mrs. Gyarados. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book. And I threw the knife as well. John, dear. It's alright, I know. I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry. Lord Van Zeeks, what news of Mrs. Gyarados? She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left her in an especially flooded state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There's no cause for concern. Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions. There is some good news, however, my lord. I've just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon. It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her. How wonderful! The woman is out of danger, it seems. Yes, that is good news. So, Mr. Saseki Natsume. Yes? On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture. And I have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh no, Mr. Natsume. That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again in my confusion. What conclusion, sir? I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes, Constable B said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed too. I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless. It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain, but now I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they're haunting me. Poor Saseki-san, his imagination really has got the better of him. Yes, poor man. So when it has happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires, and for that, I am truly sorry. One could indeed say that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think, when they created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by the spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Zeeks and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both. Oh. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decision regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As foreman of this jury, I can assure you have reached a fair and just conclusion. I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure. Sitting in for the old bean while she's out of action, you know, but I know what her decision would be. Does mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time. I see. I'll have a corker of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman. Very well, Mr. Sasaki Natsume. I hereby pronounce you not guilty. And finally, Mr. Natsume. Oh, yes, Lord, sir. You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me. Oh yes, sir. Of course. On my life. I swear I'll never step foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported to tears. Farewell, parents. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned. Oh, locum. Wait, you mean me? Of course. Is there another locum here? Is there even one? Compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruto Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with using my actual name? Oh, at last, I'm free! I'm free! Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation! Heady, hearty, happiness, hurrah! I am pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted. Would it be so hard just to say that, then? Locum, you did it! You saved me from the brink! Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault, after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now. No, not that! Lovely, lawyer, locum, lawyer! Yes? I mean, as I said before, I have just never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings, and from high up windows, I see them looking down on me, laughing. Look at that little hunchback. Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. But today, you locum lawyer gave my gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born!" Well, that's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you. This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my friends back in Japan. An anecdote? Is that what's to become of all my hard work? Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Holmes, what a pleasure to see you. I see I'm here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Oh. The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruto, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No, then my haste was in vain. Ah, it's you, Sherlock Holmes. Oh, have we met, sir? This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Holmes. Oh, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either of your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't place that curious face in the light. Charming. This is all your fault, Sherlock Holmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Has she been taken to hospital more urgently? I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now. Oh. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind. Now then, what was it that you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. Priceless. Oh, I am sorry, really, but that was quite priceless. Poor Saseki-san. Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a dime, and it would seem you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume? Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits and now by the Reaper. Oh, Lord Van Zeeks. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you are found not guilty, you're still doomed. It will be all right, Mr. Natsume. The Reaper appears trying to make trouble. I will protect you. Hi-ya! With a perfectly executed Susato takedown. Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of a warning might be nice next time, Miss Susato. So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan? Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh. It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here, and the shape and a city has shaped. I've come to realize it is my calling to stay home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. That's very touching, Mr. Natsume. Or, in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That's not it at all. The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws on my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. A work of literature by Saseki-san. Could be an interesting read. Get it. What about Miss Susato and yourself, Mr. Naruto? Sorry, what about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. Only now does it feel as though we have finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. Calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted. Well then, you could take my lodgings. Oh, the windowless room. But what it lacks in windows, it more than makes up for with a floor, a ceiling, and walls. Great. And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit. Oh my, an evil spirit. Oh yes. Tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. Well, we'll think about it if that's alright. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it is up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of? Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to taking lodgings in the great detective office's attic. I'm too overcome for words. So suggesting we look elsewhere is out then. Then it's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist. I don't know what to say, but thank you, and yes. Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take long. Somebody's happy. Welcome. I knew that you wouldn't let me down, and I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsume, it's been a privilege meeting you too. It's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame that we're gonna have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But Locum, we'll meet again one day. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author. Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, Mr. Holmes. I have little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening. And so, with Saseki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Holmes to what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street. Now here, the attic room. So this is to be our new office, yes. Our office. I rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Cosima. It's only a small step, but I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So, my dear fellows, do you like the place? Ah, Mr. Holmes, yes, thank you so much. Sorry about that. Another interruption. It's a delightful room, Mr. Holmes. I simply adore it. Good, I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you. I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you. All right then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad. Splendid. So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital? It's very exciting, actually. Can't help wondering what adventures await us. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Till I discovered the dark truth about the city of London. That is... Sorry. London is a glorious place, full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. With the brightness of lights... cast the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So, once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London. Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Holmes so casually spoke, but it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. And finally, the end of Case 4. Now, this case is fucking good. It's still, yeah, I still don't think it's better than Case 3, of course. I mean, yeah, like, come on. Case 3 is so fucking amazing. So let's put the case ranking on screen. So I slightly preferred over the second case. Just because I just love the setting of it, you know. We got to see, you know, London life. We got to see, you know, we get to test Naruhodo's resolve. Thanks to the last case, you know, kind of destroying it. And and honestly, like it was just a fun case. It's just a fun case all around. Of course, you know, just being a fun case doesn't bring you to the upper echelons of like the highest of echelons for Ace Attorney cases, but I mean, it's still a really damn good case. I also just to mention some references. So, so the real life Soseki Natsume has a book called Kokoro, which is of course based on the, you know, the adventure of the clouded heart here, which, you know, Kokoro means heart, or just the adventure of the clouded Kokoro. And the book was about you know, his feelings, you know, the heart of things. So it really does fit with this case. There's also the little reference there to Shakespeare's Hamlet with mentioning lines from Hamlet. There's also the stop, look, and listen. which is it's associated with the cross code in the UK. So basically, it's like crossing the road. You know, you stop, you look, and you listen to hear any cars. And then there's obviously the reference to "You're not a clown, you're the entire circus" from Ace Attorney from the normal Ace Attorney game. Well, at least a meme of it. This is not real. You're not a clown, you're the entire circus. Then of course there are Sherlock Holmes references, such as in the original version of this game, the book that was a part of this incident was actually named "The Adventure of the Lion's Mane," which is another Sherlock Holmes story. And then the Sherlock Holmes' deduction, which you're gonna notice a trend with this. All of this is most of his deductions are references to his other works. So we had the Speckled Band the last time. This time we have something from The Adventure of the Veiled Lodger. And of course, the two books that Sasaki-san, two of the books that Sasaki-san bought, with a picture of Monsieur Lecoq and Emile Gaboriau. Monsieur Lecoq is a character that was created by Emile or Emile. I don't Emile Gaboriau, who is a French author who is who I believe influenced. Yeah, he was an influence for. Yeah, it was an influence for Sherlock Holmes. So in a case, so as you saw from before, this case, it's good, but the next case is my favorite case in this game, and it is not only long, but it is just fucking amazing. So I'll be seeing you guys next time. Take care.